Hey everyone, this is Tony Holbein. You are listening to the Revenue Formula with Mikkel and Tony. In today's episode, we are talking about what it really means to report to the CEO. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Enjoy. Before we jump into the show, today's episode is brought to you by Fullcast, the only AI-powered platform that streamlines your entire sales cycle from plan to pay. Customers report up to 80% cost savings, 20% growth in pipeline, and 30% boost in RevOps efficiency. With modules like territory and quota management, routing, and capacity planning, Fullcast adapts to your unique needs, whether you need one solution or an all-in-one platform. Visit fullcast.com, book a demo, and mention the Revenue Formula podcast to unlock an exclusive premium gift just for listeners. And now, enjoy the show. I would like you to maybe dress up a little bit nicer. You know, there's some people that, watch us on YouTube and they're just seeing what kind of a slob you are.
So that means you're acknowledging. So basically you're acknowledging that they're also watching me, is what you're saying. That's what you're acknowledging.
Yeah, I mean, in those mini cuts where you get, your 5 words in per episode, that's where kind of they're seeing you. Otherwise, obviously, it's focused on the star,
On the star. That's the funny thing is he's no longer just your co-host. It's not really a co-founder, like we co-founded this podcast together, but it's business partner, I think is more accurate in this scenario. It's mine. And who has closed the more? Maybe we don't want to talk about that here. Jesus. So we just came back.
What did you do on the weekend? Tell me more.
We just came back from Sweden. Winter break with the kids and the family. Basically sent home the father-in-law and sister-in-law. They drove home the day before us. And they decided to drive late at night. And what happened? Basically, snow decided to appear for the first time, I want to say, during this winter season. And it took almost twice as long for them to get home. So that was good for them. When we got up the next day to drive home, everything was perfect. Like blue skies, sun was out, perfect roads. Awesome experience. And you?
I mean, my kids went, what is it, sledging? What is it?
Yeah,
Sledding. Like here in the park. It was pretty fun actually. Twice. Down the hill and then walking up, because obviously it's like Denmark doesn't have hills. So there's also no lifts. So it's all you walking up. Yeah. But it was a good experience. It was fun.
So when you say went sledding twice, meaning they went for two trips up and down the hill and then done, or you went there, spent an hour, went home. Yeah. It's like, okay, so it's like
no. It was like 2 full trips, 2 half days basically spent on the slopes. And
did you have to take a ski lift up there? Or
that's what I'm saying. There was, I was looking for the après ski thing. None. No lift, no après ski. It was pretty disappointing, but it's also Denmark.
They could open
it's kind of snowy here, twice or 3 times a year. That's it.
Yeah. When you turn on the snow machine, that's what happens. Or if you open the freezer and let it just stand there for the weekend, then you get it. Anyway, why did we talk about this? Going sledding and. I was going to say sledging.
Because it snowed in Denmark. And we have to, if it's not the kids, we have to talk about the weather. In this case, we also got the kids in there. So I think we ticked all the boxes.
You know who else has kids? My old CEO. And I'm not talking about you, but my old, the one before you, basically. My first CEO. He had kids. And it's funny. No, that was a terrible segue. We wanted to talk a bit about reporting to the CEO today. Maybe there's a listener who's already reporting to the CEO. Maybe there's someone who is about to, who wants to. I don't know. But actually, it is a very interesting subject because it is very different reporting directly to the CEO. It's something both you and I actually have done. So we wanted to just dive into that topic today. And I think the first thing we wanted to cover is, how did you end up, Tony, reporting to the CEO?
Yeah, I think it was lack of other options, lack of alternatives.
You were an orphan, basically. Where do we put this guy?
No, I think it happened. Well, in the beginning, it happened because I was helping him out with a couple of things, amongst other things, closing the funding round. I think in today's world, you would call me something like a founder's associate or something like this. Okay. I feel like there's so many labels you can slap on me these days. So there was that. And then, as I kind of got a real job eventually in that office, which ended up being the sales ops, rev ops piece. I was like, you don't really fit here anymore. You now report to the SVP of sales. And then that guy got fired, and then there was no one really else. And then it's like, okay, I guess you roll up to me now, Tony. And I think that never actually changed since then anymore. Then I became the CRO, and then obviously kind of I was reporting to him. But I think that was kind of that was the path of necessity. It wasn't like, oof, let's hire this Tony guy and kind of get him in. That was the case then in Planday, the other company. But I was basically hired as a CRO, and then obviously you report to the CEO.
Yeah. No, I was going to say, it's like, I think so. You and I worked at the same company, and I think there's just a difference when you apply to a company as a C level. Of course, you will roll into the CEO, versus if you apply to a small company like seed stage, there's a high likelihood you're going to report to the CEO because they're like 20 people. So are they going to have a managerial layer? No, not necessarily, right? And so it really depends on this stage. What was it like? Maybe just get that nuance as well, and I'll tell my story. What was it like actually working with the CEO in the early days at the first gig?
I mean, this is like really long time ago.
This is so disappointing.
I know. No, I think it's just a different expectation level. Yeah. I think, and we're gonna get to this in a little bit deeper. But I think ultimately that's what it is. It's less BS, more talk on how to fix things and kind of getting things done. It's like you need to realize that you actually are you're expected to deliver actual results, like business results, and it's less so about like what you've tried, and more so about what you have achieved. And I think that makes you think about running a business and running a go-to-market just in different ways. It's like not, let's send 5 more emails and they didn't reply. Well, I did everything I could. It's like, I don't give a shit what you tried. Just give me the effing result here, right?
Yeah.
And I think that kind of mentality, I think it's really good to carry into any other role, any other reporting relationship, anything else going forward as well.
Yeah, I was going to say there's a lot of benefits of rolling into the CEO that we might as well just cover now, because I think when I started reporting to the CEO, which is, by the way, also was out of the necessity. Basically, we had a VP marketing going on maternity, and then I kind of was, let's say, next in line and rolled into this
last man standing.
Last man standing. Yeah. This was after a reduction in force, just inside joke right there. But so basically, I was fortunate enough to take care of the team through that difficult time and reporting into the CEO. And one of the things I always wondered was, am I getting the full story when management tells me something? Am I really getting everything? What's happening behind the curtain? And all of a sudden, when you report to the CEO, you're behind the curtain. You know exactly what's going on. There might be some things, that doesn't get divulged necessarily. If there's something happening in another team that's just totally irrelevant, there will be gossip. But I feel like the benefit of rolling into the CEO is the amount of information you get makes it kind of clearer. Where's this machinery, working towards? Where are we going towards, and why? And what can you do to contribute? Because you have so much more information, all of a sudden you can, quite frankly, perform better, right? Yeah. And I was a bit surprised, actually. I didn't feel like, oh my God, this is like, now I've entered Narnia. It's an entirely different world. It's like, no, I know maybe 5% more that I'm going to use. It's not like things were being kept secret on that level.
No, but I think this is maybe not an upside, but you're definitely exposed to more of the chaos, more of the stuff that you otherwise aren't. Yeah. Because that really becomes the second level, leadership's responsibility is to filter the message.
Yeah.
Like true. Scale down the crazy and try and deliver like a nice experience for everyone working on a specific thing, right? Yeah. And I think the good thing is you obviously have lots of access and understand all of that stuff, but it does challenge you in your ability to communicate, frankly, right? It's not only starting to be a burden for you, so you have to do it. It's part of your job, but also you kind of need to translate the message. And I think this is a form of internal selling, I think, that you learn at this level that is extremely valuable, right? Yeah. And I think the other piece, if you roll to the CEO, you're fewer links removed from, the boss. And that proximity also gives you more money usually.
Yeah, I was just saying budget.
Usually people are better, they have bigger budgets, yes,
Yeah,
but also they get, higher salaries and
Yeah.
get bigger titles and whatever you have, right? So I think there's a couple of prestige and status items that definitely are kind of a good thing running into the CEO.
Yeah, I was going to say, because you're basically removing a link. So for me, when the VP was out and I was reporting straight to the CEO, there was obviously a link removed in terms of if I wanted to do something or acquire something, software or whatever, it's a lot easier. Like, decisions happen a lot faster, which gives speed, to be honest. And I felt like sometimes when you're further detached from whoever needs to make the decision, there can be a lot of flip-flopping happening and a lot of like back and forth, where with the CEO, it's like very like, okay, how many more opportunities is it going to give me? And if you don't have the answer, then it's like, okay, I guess we're going to pass for now on this thing. It's like very simple, honestly, way of making decisions, but it makes it very easy for you to understand what is the motivation, and thereby decisions just happen faster and you gain an immense amount of speed. Yeah. And yeah, because you're closer, you will over time build trust, which means you will have an easier time getting access to budget. Even if you're not, 100% on your game one day and you want to pitch something to the CEO, if you've accumulated trust over time, so much easier. So there's a bunch of reasons why it's great. I think the last is kind of, you touch upon it briefly, is the whole career element. I mean, I guess for both of us, it's been one of the ingredients to accelerate career growth. Do you want to maybe just tell a little bit more about how is it reporting to the CEO factored into that for you?
Yeah, so I think, and maybe I'm just jumping ahead a couple of steps in my thoughts here. I think reporting to the CEO always exposes you way more to being, what is it called, skip leveled, or someone being put in between or on top.
Yeah.
And for some reason, that kind of is one of the things I think that should be way more prevalent with everyone out there reporting directly to the CEO, who isn't like the obvious on paper clear choice for only this role, right? Yeah. I think, that was the case when I rolled into this guy. This was the case when you rolled into this guy. There was always like, oh, should we kind of get someone in who actually knows how this thing works, right? I mean, you're a little bit more under threat and kind of in that regard, but also at the same time, you need to play it cool. Like you are expected to try and do the best for the business first, which might not be the best for you personally, but you just gotta roll with that reality, right? Yeah. Kind of you trying to get in the way of a good business decision, that just makes you look stupid, basically. Yeah. And I think if you're rolling to someone else than the CEO, I think you get away with a lot more drama and a lot more like, but that would demotivate me a lot if someone else were to come in, and then I'll leave, and I think once you roll to the CEO, kind of all of these things are starting to become like petty BS. Yeah. Like, why are you annoying me with that stuff? And if you want to leave, then you probably will have to leave. But you pushing against something that makes total sense because of your emotions, I think we have a disconnect here, right? Yeah. And I think that's just different when you roll to someone like that.
Yeah, so I mean, let's maybe continue down this path, because I was literally thinking there's something around you being zero maintenance that's going to matter a great deal. If you roll into that person, you just have to acknowledge that he or she, no time. Literally, no time available. It's the most precious resource they have, and it is for anyone, but especially for the CEO, right? Especially for the CEO. So if you take up a lot of time with drama and ineffective decision making or ineffective proposal, or just wasting an hour on a catch up that's not going anywhere, you know what, they're gonna start losing a bit of trust in you. They're gonna not hold you in as high regard. I think that ability to require no maintenance and bringing just on the one-on-one level, bring an agenda and say, hey, here's the decisions we need to make, here's the problems and how I'm gonna handle them, end of story. That's like stuff like that is tremendously important.
Yeah. So in this vein, and this both me having been a CEO and having, rolled to two CEOs, the thing is not that CEOs have less time. I would say that's actually not necessarily true.
We all have 24 hours.
No, but everyone is busy. Don't get me wrong. I think what is different with CEOs is the crazy context switching that they need to go through all the time. So one session you're talking to your HR lead and have some some summer party drama that you now need to help, clean up. The next meeting you have, you're talking to someone from the press and need to give them some story why everything is great. And then the next meeting you have, investor that tells you that your company's shit and you need to kind of maybe do something else. And then the next meeting you have a marketing strategy session, right? It's like the context switching is just off the charts. So, and how do you deal with that? Well, you can't really, you have to expend a lot of energy to kind of get into the new context.
Yeah.
And what anyone that can, that is in the room can help you with, just keep it simple. Just keep it freaking simple what you want to bring to the table. Give an agenda up front. I think that's always great. I'm really terrible with that. But if someone brings an agenda to me, it's like, I love you a little bit now. And then have a and I think in consulting circles, it's kind of top-down communication. It's like, tell me what the point is first, and then give me all the details, instead of what most of us are used to. It's like detail, and all of these details that you don't need to understand, they lead to this outcome here. Do it the other way around. Like, hey, this is what we need to do, and here are the top 3 reasons why I think that's important. And if you do that, what you will do is you will kind of take some of the mental load of the CEO of needing to do all those acrobatics, him or herself, which they're, by the way, totally capable of. It's not about that you need to dumb it down because they're stupid people. It's just you help them with the context switching. If you kind of work it up a little bit for them and make it easier to digest.
It's also a great way to be effective with time. It's called the state and prove framework almost. Like, here's the statement. Now I'm going to prove why the statement is true. So if there's a problem and you're presenting a solution, you don't need to dive into the causes of the problem. Like, it might be that the CEO actually is curious and say, hey, why did this happen? Like, this is the first I'm hearing of it. It could also be that they're aware of the problem, or actually they just get it. You don't need to explain it. Same with the solution. So it's just insanely efficient. It's like, if I'm going to be in a content meeting with someone and they're going to present me the whatever plan, and they start explaining how SEO optimization works, I'm going to be, hey, I've done that for years. You don't need to explain it. Let's just go. Let's go. Right. And it's the same also, I think, for the CEO, to your point. They're not stupid. So, but I think this is really about this is very much upward management to a large degree.
Yeah, you're right.
And being proactive, which is, I think, very much necessary here. Like, the simpler you can make things for them and the less you can bother them, the better you're going to be. But there's another element, which is you also want to build some trust. You also want to build your career. And part of that, quite frankly, requires relentless execution. I feel like when I moved from the comfortable VP marketing as my manager to the CEO, it felt like somehow all bets were off. Do you know what I mean? It's not like I had all those guardrails, I had all the safety nets around me to kind of support me. It's like, no, you're reporting to the man now. This is it. There's no further to go almost. So if you screw up, it's like, you better come with a way to remediate it.
No, I mean, there's no cozy layer in between anymore, right?
No, exactly.
You're responsible. You are responsible. And especially if you're leading up a specific department, marketing, sales, or CS in the go-to-market realm, it's like you are responsible for these outcomes there. And it's very unambiguous on like what those outcomes need to be. At least on a super simplified CEO level. Marketing, you need to generate pipeline. Sales, you need to hit the target. And CS need to kind of fix churn. Like, that's it. Like, all of the other things kind of go out the window, right? And then whenever you bring anything to the table that doesn't kind of contribute to those things, it's starting to be like, why are we talking about this? Obviously, there are a couple of other topics like, personnel leadership, and it's also a boss relationship where you can have a conversations like, hey, I have this director and I'm not so sure about him or her anymore, and maybe I need to, like, there's obviously some sparring going on, but usually it all breaks down to you are responsible with this part of how the company value chain works, and what are you doing to kind of get there. And if you fail, you will make everyone else fail, and you will make the company fail. So you better don't mess up, right? And obviously this never fully works out. So on the one hand side, you need to push and get as close as possible. But also when you yourself start seeing it's not going in that direction, the earlier you raise the hand and say like, here's an issue, but I'm working on it, X, Y, and Z, kind of those are the things I'm doing, the better, right? So what you don't want to have happen as a CEO is too many surprises at the same time, especially very short to where you need to be accountable in the board meeting or something like this, right? You want to have a little bit of time before you need to, address your bosses, basically, to build up the story arc, to kind of think about how do all of these pieces now work together? What's the story? How can we make sense of this? Yeah. And surprises don't help you. Surprises kind of go in the opposite direction of this, right? So this is part of also, being a trusted person on the team is sure hitting targets. That's the easiest. Then you're the best friend. And if you don't hit targets, kind of say it as early as you can in order to help him or her do her job in, getting the story kind of straightened out and figure out what to do, and potentially with the CFO in order to operate the company.
I agree. And I think it also made me think a little bit about the 100%, let's call it the 100% rule. You need to deliver 100% of your commitments. And I mean, in general, that's a good rule to have in any case, whether you're reporting to a VP or the CEO. But I think because all bets are off with the CEO, you want to deliver 100% of your commitments to that person. And I think the interesting piece is it kind of changes what that looks like depending on the stage of the company, probably also depending on the type of CEO. But when I look at having reported to you at early stages, so basically seed stage, it was not like, hey, I need you to deliver 1 million ARR this quarter. That was not the scope or the goal of the business.
Maybe I should have asked.
Maybe you should have, then we would have succeeded. But, so it's very different. Here we were more tactical. And it's also what I'm hearing from other folks who join at an earlier stage. It is more prescriptive, some of the discussions you're having. And you need to really understand when to let go of those things. If you agree, whether you agree or disagree with it, right? So there's this thing called disagree and commit. At up to a level, I think it's okay to voice disagreement if you truly have some information that he or she might not have that could alter the course. By all means, surface it. But this, if there's a returning theme of, I will say the rule I had with you, if you said the same thing twice, then now I need to pay attention. Then I definitely will have to do it. Like if it's once, then we can let it slide. But if it's twice, then it's like, I remember him saying that, now I need to do it. And then boom, done, delivered, right? And I think
that's how Tony works, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Simple as easy. The other element of that was also you need to have a way to structure your work to ensure you deliver those commits. So for me, it meant after one-on-one, making sure that I don't have a meeting right after. Because at least me as a person, I won't sit and take notes. I will try and pay attention to what the other person is saying and have an actual conversation. And sometimes taking notes can kind of disrupt that flow, especially if it's on a laptop that's open, right? And so right after, I would sit and just reflect over what are the most important things we discussed? What actions did I commit to that I need to take? And then make sure to lock them on my personal to-do. I just used a calendar task list. That was the easiest, right? That's one. The other was my weekly bullets. Every Friday, here's what I've done. Here's what I'm doing. If I miss something, usually it will get voiced, or if there's any disagreement, misalignment, whatever, we can manage it, right? Really great way to make sure that you yourself are actually delivering onto those commits. So I think that's at least just a reflection I had on execution. You want to be delivering 100% of your commits, and you want to be predictable. The CEO needs that.
One thing I would also advise is don't be afraid to propose that maybe it only needs to be half an hour every week, or maybe it needs to be only 1 hour every other week or something like this. Kind of don't be afraid. It's not like the CEO is going to be all upset. I mean, unless obviously hey, it's the last couple of weeks of the quarter and you're behind it and feels like you're dodging a conversation, then that's a different thing, right? But giving time back if you don't think it's necessary, it's don't be afraid suggesting that.
I think that's a good one. I also think you want to, and this is also part of building whole trust, you want to try and resolve things before they even hit the leader, right? It shouldn't be the leader coming to you with a problem. So I think the best example I've learned there, I've experienced where a manager came to me talking about someone on my team not performing. Terrible scenario, because now I look bad as a manager, versus me very quickly seeing the signs, going to the CEO saying, hey, this isn't working out. I'm going to fix it now. and in this case, you being a bit like, okay, wow, where did that come from? Right.
Yeah. But I mean.
And I think it's just to say, if you can effectively solve problems before they hit the radar of the CEO, that's going to be immensely helpful for basically shaping your career, versus if you don't do it, it might, create a lot of pain for you.
So, and I mean, there's also a reverse example here, right? It's not only someone on your team, but it could also be just the CEO asking questions into this one person.
Yeah.
And that usually is a it's not necessarily always this sign, but it can be a sign that the CEO is losing trust in that person you have on the team, or this report you're having, or something like this. And ideally, the CEO shouldn't be the first one noticing it. Let's just say it like this, right? And to a degree, this is also part of you doing your job as a leader, right?
Totally.
It's the same thing as if it goes the other way around and suddenly 5 people resign from your team, it's like,
Yeah.
That says something pretty poor about you, right? Yeah. And being able to manage all of these things proactively, ideally whenever, your boss, and this is a general thing, not just a CEO thing, but whenever your boss needs to intervene in something that you're doing, then it was kind of not correct. You should have taken care of that previously, right?
Yeah. No, I agree completely. It's funny how a lot of it is very much conversational driven. I feel like if you're delivering stellar results, everything just gets easier, by the way. Everything just gets 100%. Easier. Because the other thing I was going to say is you might get bombarded with work all of a sudden, right? I think it's a whole lot easier for a CEO who's detached from the day-to-day operational reality to make a lot of decisions, which means you now need to run incredibly fast. And I think to a degree, what you don't want to have happen is to become the person who just says no all the time, for all good sense and purposes that might be necessary. But I think you could also instead just try and reframe it, which I've done a few times with a CEO who shall remain unnamed, and basically said, instead of saying no, it's not now, later. Yeah. So you acknowledge that something is important, but there are other pieces, and if he or she is kind of like, well, actually this is really important, then of course you can start showing the list of things and you can prioritize together. But I think it just shows strength to kind of be able to say, well, we have these battles right now that are more important than this other thing, so I will get to it later.
I think it shows maturity, actually. Yeah. I think that's what it means, for me at least. But yeah, I mean, so I think those are kind of the things when you roll to the CEO, right? I think it's going to be a net positive for you if you can survive. I think that's actually kind of what it is. If you can deal with the less cozy setup, if you can deal with the very much, result focused culture there, and can survive and thrive, I think then, the world is your oyster and you can kind of grow with it, actually. Yeah. But I also know from talking to some folks, it's not for everyone. No, it's really not for everyone. And that's also okay. I think that's also totally fine, right? And I think balancing this out and figuring this out for yourself, I think that's kind of step number one. But if you get the opportunity to do it, just realize it's going to be slightly different than what you've been used to before.
Yeah, I mean, you can't forget that he or she will still be some kind of a manager that you will have a collaboration with, right? And that also means that what person are you dealing with? What personality is it? What do they require? I've certainly worked with a CEO who was not a great fit for me, right? And I did not know how to navigate his personality, and that can happen. And I think if you're considering either taking a job where you would report into the CEO for the first time, you still need to consider who he or she is. Like, what kind of vibes are you getting from that person? Are you laughing a bit together? Is it some interesting challenges he or she is focused on? How is he or she running the team, the shop, the everything, right? I think so. Some of those pieces do become important still to understand, regardless, because otherwise you can follow all the advice we've shared that we've used in practice, but you're gonna hate it and it's not gonna work out favorably, at least.
That's it.
Nice. So hopefully there's a bunch of people who will start reporting to their CEOs now.
Yeah, or wake up and realize, oh, jeez, I actually don't like this at all. No, I know why. Thank you, Tony and Mikkel, for all the horror stories.
All the CEOs go like, oh, do they need to dumb it down for me? Is that what's wrong?
No, that's what it is. I mean, if you enjoyed this, please hit subscribe. Always helps us to kind of build and grow the show. Otherwise, Mikkel, thanks a bunch. And thanks everyone for listening and or watching. Have a great one. Bye-bye.
Bye.